Okay, there's a lot to get through on this, so I'm going to do this pretty quickly. The goal is we're going to make a wig stand. The wig stands, the reason we're doing this is because we are donating these wig stands to Living Well Cancer Resource Center, which is located in Warrenville and Geneva. They actually service people who are going through catastrophic illnesses, going through chemotherapy, they might lose their hair. They actually give away wigs for people who have lost their hair. Currently they give them plastic stands. The woman, Angela, who runs the place, told me that they could use up to 75 wig stands a quarter for the people that they give wigs away to. So it could be a child, it could be a woman, it could be a man. And as you know, a lot of that is tied to self-esteem, and they're going through enough. This is just a little way to share the love. So basically, the Women in Turning Committee picked up the gauntlet that was one of our members, one of the women in turning, said, hey, why don't we do wig stands? Our club does wig stands. So we decided to make it a national initiative. And so we compiled information from all over. The Central Illinois Woodturners have been doing this for, 20 years maybe. So they had a very comprehensive plan. There was an article written about doing hat stands, same idea. In the AEW, we put all of that together, combined it into a document, which you will find if you go to Windy City Woodturners .weebly.com. You will see under the resources tab, there is the instructions for this. So I didn't print anything out tonight, but you can go right to our website and download the whole thing. It's a PDF, and there's several different methods of doing this. I'm just going to show you the one that I use. The main bit of information that you're going to need to know. The base is typically a 6-inch blank. The top will be a 5-inch blank. You're going to want it to be at least 2 inches thick. The stem, they call, is going to start, usually it's going to end up between 11 and 13 inches, so I just go for 12. But if you make a shorter one, you can certainly do that and have it be for a child. So if you don't have it quite 12 inches, you can make it shorter. They are 1.25 inches square. You can glue them up, it's okay. We have a couple of people who have volunteered to decorate them, so if you choose to not put any finish on it, that's fine. If you choose to finish it, the top should definitely not be finished with an oil finish. You need to use polyurethane, something that's waterproof. The polyurethane, because number one, we don't want oil on the top because it'll transfer to the wig, and that's a bad thing. But number two, if the wigs are sweaty, we don't want it to stain the wig stand. So that's the goal. You need it to be waterproof on the top. If you're going to do that, then you're probably going to carry it through the whole thing. Even if it's painted or stained or whatever, it still has to have the polyurethane on the top. Okay? If you choose not to finish it, just make sure that I know that it's not finished, and I will put it into the people who are going to be decorating. Over here, it's going to be decorated by getting the whole family involved. Rich has told me that his grandchildren, I'm not going to be, not going to go there. Grandchildren are going to decorate that one, and then he'll bring it back in. So that's where you start with those. I was going to bring kits, but we had a lot more people this past Saturday doing wig stands at the Chicago schools, so I don't have the kits here. But I will continue to make kits because I'm trying to, I'm on a wood diet currently, so I'm getting rid of wood. And by doing that, I will be making blanks up. So what you're seeing tonight, I'm going to, hopefully, I'm going to get through this. These are actually cores, center cores from Rich Knight, which if he's on there, he'll hear that. But these were cored out of some, I believe it's madrone. Not sure. We'll find out as we turn it. It might be maple, but they were small. So this is going to be the top. This is going to be the bottom. And there are several different designs you can do. for the wig stands. This would be a base. If you decide to put a little dip in here, that'll give them a place to go ahead and put like earrings or watches or whatever. A little extra, sorry about that. Just a little extra part, because if they're gonna put their wig there, they're gonna be taking off the rings and everything, so there you go. A little bit of dip, but you can also just go ahead and make it crowned like this. This one Frank did. So just with a nice crown here, a nice crown here. The key to it on the top is that you don't want any pointy edges, okay? You want it to look kind of like a mushroom. Because if you have a sharp edge here, then you're going to put a dent in the wig, which will deform the wig. We don't want that to happen. So in this case, this was done by Phil Moy from the Chicago Club. He put this gratitude button on the top. It's a great idea, but it needs to be flat. So this one is probably going to get moved down a little bit. He had drilled the wrong side, so he just added the gratitude button on it. But it just needs to go down a little bit in order for it not to cause a problem with the wig. So we want to try and keep this pretty flat and not have that on it. The other thing you might want to consider doing is you're going to sign your work, but you might want to put a message on the bottom, just something inspirational to the person who might eventually get it, if that's something you're interested in doing. Coming up with a card that can be attached to these that will say it's from the Windy City Woodturners, and we're wishing them well, whatever, then you'd be able to write on that if you'd like. Okay, so any questions so far? Everybody got that? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with the top of this. I have gone ahead and pre-drilled these. So I drilled them with a 7/8 inch horseshoe bit on my drill press because it's easier to do it on the drill press. But it does present some challenges in putting it in between centers. If you don't have it, the center, in this case, these are coarse, so I didn't have a center point here. So we're going to have to do a little bit of working around that. But if you drill them first, you can use the tailstock, the live center, to just go into the hole that's there. And you're going to use a spur drive on here. And I'll show you, in this case, because I'm doing the top, on the top, you're going to put the hole in the bottom. On the bottom, you're going to put the hole in the top. Make sense? Okay. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. I have a tendon, I should say I have a recess in here. I'm going to put another recess in here, in this, that will hold my chuck. My chuck will expand into it so that I can turn this around and do the top. But I need to get it round first because also I didn't show you this one. You can also get creative if you want to do something a little different. You can just get a little creative if you have a large enough piece of wood. So typically they're about 2 8/4 thick when you're starting. But if they're bigger, you can get more creative. Okay, so I'm going to round this down, make it round so that it gives me I'm not wobbling around. And then I'm going to go ahead and do my recess so I can expand into it. And always remember that you want to, practice. Can you hear me okay? I can, it's echoing. So practice safe practices. I know that I'm starting here, I've turned the lathe down to 0. I'm going to turn it on, and then I'll bring it up. It is going to, I centered that pretty well. Okay. So I'm just going to round it first. I'll take this edge off, give me a flat edge, and then I'm going to use a specialized tool that I made from a screwdriver to give myself a place to, it's a scraper, to give myself a place to expand into. I'm going to do that first. If you have questions while I'm doing this, just shout out. If I can't hear you, somebody will tell me. So we're going to just start out anchor bevel cut. I'm starting here, and pretty much first time get this round. It's a little bit large to start with, so I'm okay with turning it down. Again, it's kind of a mushroom shape. Right now it has quite a bit of a cone, but we're going to take quite a bit of this off as we get around. I just want to get it mostly balanced before I do too much, before I flip it around. We got a little bit of waviness there, but that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and flatten this off and bring it down just a little bit because I have a lot of room here. I have a lot of different pieces of wood at home, but eventually have to go, and I don't think I'm going to move them, so eventually I'm probably going to be moving within the next year. Sorry about that, but that means I have to reduce some of the stuff that I'm moving. My husband's freaking out on me, so we're never going to be able to use this whole stuff. We're just getting it round. Obviously, it is not round there. I'm going to not worry about that because I can fix that once I have a little more room. I can just take this down and make it concave at this point. You really only need a spindle gouge for the spindle, or a bowl gouge. You need a parting tool, you need a skew, and in my case, I'm going to use this. And pretty much that's about all I use on these. I roughing gouge when I'm working on the spindle. So it's not a lot of tools. You can use carbide tools if you want to. It works, just the way you would normally use them. I'm going to bring this down. I don't know if this can allow you to hear me. Being rather cautious of getting close to that. I'm going to just make this that I brought just to clean this up. And just allow me a little bit of a nice smooth edge. You don't necessarily have to have an undercut on the top. You can actually do a top that looks like this. Yes, your poster going there. No reason saying that you can't do that. So this is you get to design it as you go. So and I'm going to make sure that this edge has a square edge. I don't want to have, I don't want the tenon not to be straight. So I'm going to use this. Get in here, straighten it up, and ring skew. I'm using the skew here just so that I can make a straight tenon, and this will just go straight in. And then I can go across and use it. You want that to be 90 degrees. And it does not have to be very large. Contrary to popular belief, you do not have to have a huge tenon in order to turn something. This isn't a huge bowl, in this case top. So you don't have to have something that is oversized. That's plenty in order to turn this around. I'm going to go ahead and get that little section that I left there. I didn't realize I left it. Like this. Not going to be perfect. Don't want to get these there. This will have to be flat right next to where your stem will go in, because you're going to have the top of the stem fitting in. So as long as that's flat, you're pretty good. Shouldn't have a problem there. I would normally at home come back and do a little more shaping, but I'm trying to get through this rather quickly. I'm going to do a little more rounding here, and then I'm going to turn it around, and we will have this done pretty quick. Okay. So I don't know if all of you would normally come on this side of headstock to do this. As long as you're keeping your arms close to your body and you have access to it, there's no reason you can't do this while it's still on the same axis. I'm going to switch hands, which hopefully all of you will do. I could have put a ton in here because I have enough room to be able to do that side, but I find that it's just as easy to go ahead and take this off and not have to worry about that. I am going to waste some of this beautiful wood, sorry Rick, but I'm just sitting there. I'm going to bring this down as far as I can now before I turn it around, so that all I have to do is take that little nub off and then turn it around. Normally you're going to want to go ahead and sand all this. So the sand, I'm not going to sand tonight at all. So hopefully I will be able to make a pretty decent finish without sanding. We are going to go ahead and I'm just going to take my skew over here on a flat edge, so it's kind of like a negative break scraper. And just give it a little bit of a, I'm moving my body around so that it will go ahead and follow around here. I do have a little bit of a, I can feel the chatter right here, so there's going to be a little swirl. That's okay, I'll take it, when I get home I will take that off of there. If you wanted to, as long as you start on one side or the other of the chatter, not right in the middle, you have to start at one side and then do very light cuts, you can get any of these chatters out. So by chatter I'm talking about, let me see if you can see it or not. No, I don't think you can see it. Actually, you might have just got it up. There's a little bit right here. You probably can't see that. All right, anyway, if you start on one side of it, as long as you're completely away, as long as you're completely off of the chatter, and then you just hold your tool at the same level, don't push. The reason that happened is because I was pushing a little too hard. You can get it out. And it's just a matter of just these slight little, tiny little bits, keeping it at the same point, you can get that out. Okay? So now I'm going to turn it around. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to put the other one on here, and then I'll turn them all around so I don't have to take the chuck on. Because otherwise, I'm going to have to put the chuck on, take the chuck off. So that's basically the shape we're going to use. This will come off, and I'm not going to do anything else to the bottom of this. This is the bottom. You do have to turn a little bit on the bottom, but what I'm going to do now is turn the top. I'm totally okay with having this be a little larger and having it be not necessarily, the other thing I didn't tell you. There's a hole in here where the forstner bit was. I try to put that onto the point of the live center so that it centers. And then I just move this part until it's pretty much vertical, so if I'm pretty close there. So did you see that? You can kind of tell. If it's here, it's not all the way in. So if you just move it around just a little bit, it's not much larger than the live center at the 7/8 inch hole, but you can kind of see. No, maybe you can't. This is in the way. Sorry about that. But basically, I try to get it right on the center. I do have a center found on this side. So hopefully, I'm just going to look. Oops. Not quite. Give it not fully snug, but enough that I can turn this and see. See, now it's definitely out of round. Not quite where I want it to be. And I need this to be pretty close to vertical from where I started. That's pretty good. So what I'm looking for here is that this shines pretty flat. It's not quite there, but it's pretty good. So I'm going to tighten that up a little bit. We do the same thing. In this case, I'm going to take my large skew and take it down kind of with a peeling cut so that this is pretty flat. Then I'll put a recess in here just because I can. If I decide that I want to do a little more on this, I can do that. But right now, we're going to make it round. This is a this is a 1/2 inch bowl gouge. I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the other one. Got a little wobble to it, not bad. I'm going to do this side first. It's really nice to have the face shield, because I don't have to worry about having all these little tips written, but it is kind of flying up underneath. So basically, I'm trying to get about maybe at least an inch that's pretty well flat. This is a design opportunity. You can do whatever you want on these. It does not make a difference. I'm going to go ahead and flatten this out. This is a skew, but I'm going to use it just a little peeling cut. The reason I'm using the skew is because it leaves behind a nice finish on the bottom. And that's really what I want. I don't want to have to do much work when I turn it around. Just want to be able to give it a really good, just a tiny little bit of decoration on the bottom. And I'll have to take the nub off when I get done. I'm going to stop about there. And look. It's pretty nice. It's very smooth. I'm not even going to need to sand that. I am going to put some decoration in there at some point. But for now, I'm going to do a slight recess so that I can expand into it. What's going to be nice about that is it's also going to be a feature on the bottom of the stage. So, and then I can finish that once there'll be a, you'll see, there'll be a tenon on the top there too. So, this. Just turning this on its side. This is okay. This tool is sharpened. Can you see this gone? Okay, so this tool is sharpened to work on this side, not on this side. So I may end up doing this later, but we should be able to do it. So once I get this turned around, I'm not going to worry about this stuff.
There you go.
Okay. So basically this is an old screwdriver. It has a flat on there. It's been ground, flat here and flat here. And then we just used a grinder to cut this in so that you can have a dovetailed tenon. When you're using it, or a recess, okay? It's just a handy little tool that we made because it was nice to have. So I'm going to put a tenon here so I can turn around and fix that, and then I'll put that on. So, okay, so I've got it round up to here. I'm going to take this around. And I'm still trying to make it actually round. Trying to get the rough stuff off of it. If this was just a little bit larger, I would probably bring the diameter down, but no, just bring it down a little bit. I want to have a little bit higher base so that I can do that ring holder. And take a little bit more of this one. In this case, I'm just going to give it a little angle. We have stuff too, to put some beans, chilies, and that's, I got an urgent shift here. I am going to do a little bit of a needle here, I do a slight return so it doesn't look like it's planted on the table, even though this is a utility item. We want to give it a little bit of lift, just so it looks good. You'll know, they may not notice, but trust me, your eye notices that stuff. So, I'm going to shear scrape just a little bit. And bring this around. So a little bit here. This is where you get the opportunity to go ahead and make the designs however you want to make them. I kind of like some fluid curves. I'm going to make the top of this so that it just swings up to that. But right now, I'm trying to get enough space here to do just a little bit of this one. Doesn't have to be a lot. And then we curve over the edge here. So that it all blends together. And again, this is just a matter, this is where you get to decide what you want. So this is, at this point, I'm going to, oops, sorry about that. I'm going to move my body a little bit so that I get the recess and it makes a nice curve. And I'm going to bring this part down a little bit more so that it all feeds in together. And now that it's bouncing a little bit, that's because I'm a little bit farther off the tool rest. So we'll turn it around so we can work on that. My tool rides just above center. And it's allowing me to go ahead and use the tool rest and the balance next to my body. It's allowing me to have the control of the tool. So about how to put in there. And if you notice, this little section right here, can you do the overhead shot there? Right here, this is, I'm going to make this flat because this is where it's going to meet up with the stem. Okay, so that's basically going to be flat. It can be a little bit concave. It depends on how how wide the base of your stem is. And then eventually my stem is going to meet up with this curve, and I will blend them together so that it looks like it's supposed to be there. I'm going to get you there, baby. Okay. So once you've got your hand next to your body as you're doing this, you're going to get a nice, smooth, beautiful curve. You're shifting your weight from one foot to the other. And that's the way you get that curve that looks so natural. This doesn't have to be a huge curve or recess, just a little bit of a recess. And just kind of blending it together, just doing the same technique you would use on a spindle turning. You're cutting down here to get to one side or the other, and then they're just kind of meeting up. And I would normally go ahead and do some sanding here. I have a little bit of a line there that I don't like, so I'm coming back here and just kind of try and make it in one thick path. So the whole thing is going to blend together. Get down to the bottom, and I'm going to take my round nose scraper and just kind of blend it together. Oops.
in this case, I should have stuck with my gouge because I'm doing better with the gouge. Okay. So that's a pretty nice finish. I have a little bit of an edge there that I'm going to round over a little bit. And I can do that either with the gouge or, again, I can take my skew. There it is. And just roll it over so I have a nice piece. And I have plenty of room to go a little deeper, but for tonight, we're just going to go right there. It's really up to you how far you go on that. Okay, so now, in order to turn it around, I'm going to put a little bit of a shoulder here that is going to end up being a feature. Right about, let's see if I can bring this. Hopefully I didn't make this too small. A tiny little shoulder. And I'm going to put this down because I do not have enough room in there. Take it down just a little bit more. In answer to your question, which I'm sure is going to come up, the depth of the hole that I drilled basically was the depth of the forstner bit and covering it. Dipped it in so that it was just a little bit deeper than the top of the forstner bit. And this straight so that we get a place to go ahead and grab that. That might be too small. I might mess that up. But if it is, I'll just put it in. Okay, so that's basically the bottom. Again, we're going to turn it around so that we can take this little nub off the bottom. And we're going to do that after we do the spindle. And gouge is only to be used on spindles. And the reason is, anybody? Anybody know? No? Because there's a tang in here. There isn't enough meat on there. If you try to use it on a bowl, and it happens to break, which it will, it's going to be a big problem. You can get hurt. We don't want you to do that. So this is a spindle roughing gouge.
Marie, does that change when you have a tool like the Thompson that is so beefy?
I have not used the Thompson tool, but I can tell you that this particular one is a spindle roughing gouge that may be more European type gouge, just a wider gouge. I mean, there's a lot of gouges that are not spindle roughing gouges, but the spindle roughing gouge has a tang like this.
It's marketed as a spindle roughing gouge, but it has a bolt gouge type of thing.
Well, I wouldn't, if it's marketed as a spindle roughing gouge, I would use it as a spindle roughing gouge and not use it as a bolt gouge. Okay. The thing that you also have to understand is the spindle roughing gouge can also be used like a skew. Very easy to do because it has basically the same angle. If you looked at a skew, here, let's go here. The angle, there we go. Okay, so the angle that you have on there is pretty much the same angle, right? It's the same bevel. So as long as you're using the spindle roughing gouge on its side, it's going to give you the same cut as you will find with a skew, okay? And it gives you the added benefit that your skew edge can go all the way around, okay? So you should be able to get the same finish with a spindle roughing gouge as you do with a skew, is what I'm trying to tell you. People will argue with me about that, but trust me, you can do it. Okay, so now I'm going to make this round. Then I'm going to size my tenons, which I've already set up my calipers to the size of my 7/8 inch. This is the one that I used. So I basically set this up here. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. Thank you. I set it up here. I used this, and I will actually use this to rough size it, and then I will clean it up and it'll be slightly undersized from this, because I have found, for whatever reason, if I do it directly to this, it is too tight to go into the holes that I've already drilled. So I use this to get my rough size, and I take it down maybe a 30-second more, and then it'll fit just perfectly, and leave room for glue. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna do this real quick. 5 minutes? Oh, okay. 5 minutes, okay, no problem. All right, the other thing we have to do, we're going to go back and forth to these numbers. I believe that if you can do 2 numbers, you can grow it, no problem at all. I believe if you take the time to learn some of the work first, you're going to be a much better worker. If you start tuning layers, you will not be a good Woodturner necessarily. So I advise everybody to go ahead and start with tuning. And once you've got that done, I mean, think about it, the bowl, the outside of the bowl is a bead, and the inside of the bowl is a color. So, works really well. We're almost there. Let's pretty much use the circle and let this down. Got a little there's a picture. Okay, now I'm going to do this one final cut. And notice I'm using my whole body. I'm keeping this tool right next to my body. So what I'm doing is allowing this to flow, and I'm going to smooth cut all the way through. I have the tool basically parallel to my work. And now, I just have to show you this because it's pretty nice. It's a pretty nice finish that you can get with a rough and dodge. Well, there's a hole there. Okay, so we're going to take the tenons and bring those down to size, which I'm going to use a parting tool to do. I could use my skew, but I'm going to use a parting tool. And I'm only going to make these about maybe not quite a half an inch. Okay. I want it to be a little more than 3/8, but not quite a half an inch. I'm going to, oops, sorry. Number one, I'm too far away. Number two, I need a little extra room. Let me get it close. I'm going to start, I have a pretty good idea about where it's going to be. So with this particular cutting tool, I'm about the width of 3. And then in order to determine my size, I tend to just take about half the width of the tool down when I'm starting, and I bring my calipers over here to the side. I should have them about right. And then once it falls through, comes past it. You'll see it. There we go. Okay, so that's the diameter that I'm shooting for. Bring the rest of them down to pretty close. And I'll check it. Should work all the way through. Pretty much, it's got a little resistance right there, so as I go to now reduce it that little 30 seconds or so. Remember, if you take a 30-second off on one side, you're getting a 30-second off on the other side. So now we're at 64, I think. But that's pretty good. Okay, I have plenty of room here. We know that that is going to be on the bottom. This extra amount here, I don't know if you can get that from this camera. Can you try the other camera? Can you trace that one? Okay, so you see the dimension between the spindle and the outside of the spindle, so the tenon side and the outside of the spindle. That's going to be roughly what you want here, okay? Because eventually I'm going to go ahead and blend them together, so we want to have that not too big, but not too small, right? Otherwise I got to take a lot off the big, okay?
So you can see my depth is about the same distance here. You can see it in here. It doesn't have to be glued at the bottom, it just needs to be glued at the tenon and on the shoulder of the tenon. So if there's a little extra depth to it, it's not a problem, okay? But that's good there. I'm gonna move the tool rest. I can make this work. Okay. So I'm going to come back over here. Then I'm taking about half the diameter of the tool. So the depth of the tool, width of the tool, that's what I was using. And I happen to know that my spur drive is pretty close to the size of what I want here. It's actually smaller than what the size I want, so I'm going to go ahead and do this. There you go. And I can bring the rest of it down. Having this slightly undercut, the shoulder slightly undercut is a good thing because that allows it to just sit at one side or the other. That should be good there. Now, laying these out, you can do whatever design you want to do on these. It really doesn't, it's up to you. This is where you get really creative or not. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and do just a half bead on either end, roughly the same size. I'm eyeballing it here. And I'm going to put a bead in the center. So my center is going to be about here. That's my high point on either side. That's the bead, and then there'll be, we have a little knot here, so I have to decide how far that's going to go. Don't like that. Maybe I'll do another bead. I don't know, we'll decide that as we go. So this is going to have a swoop. So I'm going to do the coves first, so that I have room to do the rest of my bead. And then I'm going to do that with my roughing gouge. Remember, it's a spindle roughing gouge, so it allows me, sorry, that was done. Right there. This is my center point. Right on it. There. Okay. So I'm going to just rough, and I start in the center, and I just kind of go back and forth. And I don't want to go too far down, because we are talking about something that's coming to a useful object. But I do want to make a nice, that's the other piece, with a little bit of a knot there. Yeah, that's fine. Thanks. Okay, that's pretty good. Sorry, I can hear that. Sorry, you guys are listening to me. Okay, a little bit here. Again, we're going to taking up the activity forward, but just as you get the curve that you want. So here, moving back and forth, it's going to give it a curve. And you want them to be kind of the same. Okay, I'm going to take my skew and give myself a little bit of a V-groove where the outside of the bead is going to be. And then we're going to roll into that from either side so that I have a little bit more depth. This one is just going to be kind of rolled over. And as you're using the skew, the nice part about using the skew is that once you've got that feeling of being able to move your body, you have a lot of control over this. Just remember that you're only using the bottom, whichever side you're using. If you have the heel down or the toe down, you're only going to use like the bottom third. Or if you're doing it this way, you're only going to use the bottom third. Okay, so it just depends. As long as that's the only part of the bevel you're rubbing, you won't get a catch. When you get a catch, typically it's because you've dropped it so that the back side is going to, it just hits over here. I think I can, no, I'm not going to show you. Sorry, I'm not doing it. Okay, so I'm going to do this going this way, and make sure it's right. See there, I just got one in. Let's do it this way. Even when I'm doing this, a little bit too low, maybe. My tool rest is slightly too low for this. You want those tool rests to be just not quite at center point, but so your tool is slightly above. As I'm doing this, so this was done with the roughing gouge. It's kind of rough, I don't know if you can see that or not. It's a little rough right here. That was done with the roughing gouge. This I did with the skew. So you get a nice finish with the skew. And that's what I want. I don't want to sand more than I have to, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to roll this over. So I have a nice little finish. And I'm being very distinct about putting this point here because I want you to know what I meant to do that, okay? It is not going to be oh, did she goof up and just put that there? No, I want you to know that I specifically meant to put a bead groove there, and that's why I always accent what I'm doing when I'm doing any kind of spinning. If you're doing finials or whatever you're doing, make sure that you define where you meant to define, okay? So I'm going to start here to do this bead. Give me a little more room to start. So this is going to roll into this. I'm going to reduce this diameter a little bit because I want that smaller than the ultimate bead. But I can do that as I go. Again, I'm just rolling it so that will come into play. It doesn't have to be much smaller than that. And each time, as you're trying to make this bead the perfect round, one side you always want to get off and the other. But if you're trying to make that bead perfectly round, if you're moving your body like this, you're always going to get that nice round shape. If you don't move your body, you just move your hands, I guarantee you it's not going to be as nice of a curve. Okay, that's pretty good. We're going to leave the line. That's our center point. And we're going to take this way. We're going to come where we're going to be. And my goal here is to make this as deep as this, so that, in this case, I'm going to come in through and go the other way. Two things happen here. It also allows me to go ahead and use the whole depth of the whole width of the skew. So I only have to sharpen it, every other time. And if I push, I'm going to get a little bit of a chatter, which I don't want. Pretty good. And if you end up with a pointy bead, no problem. You know how to fix that? I'll show you over here. All you have to do is kind of go back and forth. And when you go back and forth, you can just take that off and it literally puts it back into the bead. Let's see what I'm doing here. A little bit longer over here. So we're going to bring this one down just a little bit. And go from there. pretty close. How's that look to you? Okay, roll this over. Again, I want to take it down just a little bit. Don't want it to be quite as large as that is, but if it is, it's okay. For design opportunities, there you go. Okay. Pretty good. And a little bit more. And I'm just eyeballing this, but this is about where I want it to be. There's a little bit of, I'm getting perfectionist here. Okay. Now, we're going to move this one around. That's a pretty nice curve. This one needs a little bit more. It'll work. Use this. I don't want to have to stand this one. So that'll work. This container always allows you to have access, a little better access than trying to do it all in one way. That's pretty good. That needs to come down just a little bit. That's good. Move this over. That's all, you don't see anything. You have a little bit of a schmutz there, I don't know what that is. Oh, that's probably my,
Do you want to talk about the finish and taking a couple minutes on the finish?
Yeah.
We are at the point that we've got to change.
Okay, so let me do this so you can see where I'm going to be. Yeah. Okay. So when you are doing this particular one happens to be turning it upside down. When you're doing this, you want to get the sanding as smooth as you can, especially on the top. You're going to not put oil on here, no oil, always polyurethane. And then what will happen, this particular one is a little bit too big, but not by much. So eventually it's going to look like this. This happens to be a female form that Clint Stevens did. We have, the spindles gives you a lot of opportunity to do whatever you want to do. As long as you have this smooth and basically mushroom shaped, it's going to allow you to not put any creases into the rig. So if you're going to finish it with polyurethane, just a rattle can polyurethane or a white barn, something that's going to be waterproof. That's the key. Okay, another one. Not from over there. So you can use milk paint. If you use the milk paint, it is a waterproof finish. So that allows you to do that as well. But I would still suggest, highly suggest, that you take the time to use the polyurethane. Or give it to me without that, and then we can have people go ahead and do this. Any other questions? No? Everybody gonna go home and make one of this?